Light from Lantern presents
Knit a Spell.
I'm Magical Maker, Katie Rempe.
And I'm the Maker of Magic, James Devine.
Join us as we stitch together the symbiotic relationship between crafting
And the craft.
Hello?
Hello, it's Mercury Retrograde calling.
Oh no, don't come in here.
Mercury in Retrograde.
A time that most people just shaking their boots about.
Right, I think it's how many people have I seen catastrophize? Or, you know what it really is?
What?
It's when people say, I can't, and then they blame Mercury retrograde.
The excuse makers.
Yeah, it's always that. And I think why it bothers me is because maybe somewhere inside myself, I'm sensitive to it because maybe there's a little bit of that person in me.
Yeah, I think we all have that.
Oh no, it's Mercury retrograde. I can't.
Yep. It's so much easier just to write it off to being like the cosmic universe problem than something you might have done.
I'm in this picture and I don't like it. Report.
Listen, yeah, exactly. So I think let's start by kind of explaining what is Mercury in retrograde. I've noticed that we have a lot of listeners that aren't necessarily into the magical realm or astrology. So why don't you go ahead and give us a little breakdown about what it is and why people are historically scared about it, and then we'll go from there.
Yeah. So Mercury in retrograde. Mercury goes retrograde about 3 times a year. In fact, all the planets go into a retrograde motion at different times during the year. Retrograde is an astronomical and astrological concept. So the astronomical concept, it's not a concept, the observation is it's the apparent backwards movement of a planet in the sky as the Earth overtakes that planet's orbit while we are on our orbit.
Ooh.
So if you've ever looked up in the sky at the moon several nights in a row, you might notice that one night the moon is like a crescent moon right after sunset. And the next night it's a little bit later that it's there.
Yep.
Or the next night it's when it's the first quarter, it's like up in the evening and you see it right overhead, right?
Right.
So you see how the moon, this is the idea that the moon every night is sort of progressing further and further away from the sun or from the sunset. What it's doing every night is moving through the constellations every day as it goes along. Well, the moon is very close to the Earth, and so we can really see its movement. For planets that are further out, and by the way, the moon moves with us, so it's never in retrograde.
Sure.
But for the planets that are in the other lanes, and so this is the way to think about it also is when you're in a car on the freeway and some cars are going to go faster than you and some cars are going to go slower than you. As you pass a car that's going slower than you, it appears from inside the car that car is backing or going in backwards motion.
Yes.
And that's what happens. It's like when you're passing a car on the highway, that car appears to be going backwards, but it's not. It's still going forwards. We're just going a little faster.
That is a perfect analogy. I love that so much. Yeah. Very practical. Yeah, that's
so
great.
When we're passing that planet, it's a time in astrological ideas. It's a time when that planet is seen as retracing its steps that it just went through, right? So if the planet just came through like a couple different zodiac signs, right? Like let's say it was Mars, let's just use Mars for an example. Mars was in Aries and then Mars was in Taurus and then Mars goes retrograde. It'll go back through Taurus for a little while, retracing its steps. So that's the idea, is that this retrograde means we're retracing our steps and we're sort of going back over things.
Hmm.
Often, old-fashioned sort of fatalistic astrology
Hmm.
would say that whenever a planet is in retrograde, it's like ominous
Misfortune
and
time.
it's misfortune time. Yeah.
Yeah.
So they would sort of look at that as a sort of negative idea.
Mm-hmm.
Today, we have a much different approach to it. And most people, even those listening, we have a much different idea around what it means to have Mercury in retrograde.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So I think before we talk about what the Mercury in retrograde means, we should probably explain what Mercury represents.
A
You
great
think?
idea. Yes, I think so.
So Mercury is associated or is syncretized with the ancient Greek god Hermes.
Mm.
Mercury is the Roman god, and Hermes is the Greek god. This Greek god is known as messenger of the gods. Mercury has winged sandals and sometimes pictured with a winged hat,
Mm.
carries a caduceus, which is a snake entwined winged staff.
Great
Um,
stuff.
he can go to the underworld, unlike other deities. His realms are in all three places: the
Hmm.
sky, the sea, and the underworld. Um, so he can ferry the dead into the afterlife as the word psychopomp, as a person that helps guide the dead to their
Hmm.
afterlife. And he's associated with things like communication, commerce, marketing, all kinds of things. Hermes is also known to have, and is documented to have lovers that are both male and female. So there's a little bit of a pansexual thing going on with
Hmm.
him.
Yeah. Open-minded.
Um,
Yep.
and he's well dressed. He's got a fabulous,
Such
hat and
great
shoes.
style. Yeah. Oh, yeah. I'd be into that.
So that's
Mm-hmm.
a little bit about Mercury.
Wow. Very
Um,
interesting.
so when we look at it magically, we think of Mercury being the communicator, the self-expression,
Yep.
marketing, commerce, a
Mm-hmm.
little bit around like shady things. Mercury, Hermes is the patron of thieves, and we think
Ooh.
about marketing as sort of stealing your attention or convincing you of
Oh.
something. So Mercury
Deep, Jim.
can
That's deep.
right? Mercury can be that sort of idea around like, hey, look at this. Hey, look at that.
Mm.
A little bit of the Hall of Mirrors type of thing.
Sure. Look over there. Yep.
Yeah.
Hmm. Interesting. Very cool. Pardon the interruption, but here's a special message from, well, us. Hey, magical makers. Are you looking for a fun summertime project? Try my no sweat mason cozies, now available in 2 different sizes. You can save 50% on this pattern through July 31st by using the code KNITASPELL, that's all one word, on Ravelry at checkout. These beverage covers not only keep your hands dry, they're also a fun way to identify whose drink belongs to who. Cheers! Hey Jim, let's talk about a palm reading for a sec.
Oh, yeah. My favorite topic.
So, I don't think a lot of people necessarily think of getting a palm reading, but my palm reading with you was awesome, and it actually helped with a lot of preconceived notions that I had of the craft before now.
Oh, you had preconceived notions about palmistry? What were they?
Yeah. So, I mean, I'm pretty literal. So I thought having a short lifeline might mean you have a short life, or that
Right.
a star on your palm is bad.
Oh, that's interesting. Both of those are common. A short lifeline does not mean a short life. It actually means a life of connection with the divine and learning and creating type of life. And a star in your palm is a sign of spiritual gift. Those are two things that are dispelled right away. I know there's a lot of things on the palm that people
Yeah,
think are good or bad, right? There's nothing inherently negative in your palm. You can use all the tools, all the markings. They are associated with your strengths, your personality, and things you can use in your life.
absolutely. I really love that modern take on palmistry, and it actually really resonated in my reading. I think everyone would enjoy a reading from you. And, dear listener, if you too would like a fantastic experience that offers insight, direction, and clarity, I highly suggest booking a session with my dear friend James Devine, and you can find more information at thedivinedhand.com. Thanks for listening. Let's jump back into our episode.
When we call on Mercury to help us with things like travel,
Hmm.
communication, technology, marketing, sales, all those kind of things. People can use
Mm-hmm.
Mercury or Hermes in a lot of those ways. When Mercury's retrograde, the mainstream idea is my technology will break,
Mm-hmm.
transportation and travel's difficult.
Delays, yeah.
There's a whole list of things not to do during Mercury retrograde, like don't sign contracts and don't
Don't
get
start
into
new
some,
projects.
exactly, don't start
Yep.
new projects, all those things, right?
Yep.
So, what we want to do in this episode is debunk and reframe. I don't know if
Yes.
there's any debunking. Maybe it's
Well,
mostly reframing.
yeah, reframe. Yep. How to
Yeah.
make Mercury in retrograde work for you because of the opportunities it's actually offering to you. Again,
Yes,
it's all a perspective based thing. If you want this to be a doom and gloom time, you're probably going to bring a lot of doom and gloom unnecessarily onto yourself. So,
totally.
yeah.
What
So,
can you do?
there
There's a
you
whole
go.
list on the internet of what you can't do.
Mm-hmm.
What can you do during
That's right.
Mercury retrograde? And that's what we're going to
Yes.
talk about today.
Actually, this reminds me so much of palmistry and where it's come from and how it has lost, the helpful part. It's only the misfortune part. And it's just interesting how this particular instance is sort of similar to that. So I'm excited to share these ideas that we've had, because they were even really inspiring to me. I even I'm still learning and growing, like I said. And so, yeah, I'm actually excited for this Mercury in retrograde that's coming up.
Right, because you're going to be able to try things, right? So
Yep.
Mercury goes into station retrograde on
Hmm.
May 29th. That's where it sort of seems to stop and hold its place.
Mm.
Apparently stop moving through the constellations on May 29th. Starts to go retrograde sometime around May 29th through June 22nd officially.
Mm.
So
Perfect.
we've got about a month, little less than a month, right? About
Mm-hmm.
3 weeks or so of Mercury in retrograde.
Great.
And I don't be afraid, everybody. It's gonna be okay. And here are some ideas that we came up with, right?
That's right.
So
Yep.
Mercury in retrograde. So Katie, we talked about that word retrograde starting with
Mm-hmm.
the word with the prefix re,
Yes.
right?
Yes. I mean, that was like a genius reflection. This is the time to do the things that start with RE. Whether you are in the magical realm, you're a maker, or you're just living your life, there's a lot you can do, and it's fun. It's re-energizing. RE.
Oh,
It's rejuvenating. RE. And I think you're really gonna like it. So
re.
RE. That's right.
It's funny how even words that don't have re as a prefix, that
Mm-hmm.
actually just start with re, like read,
Yeah. Oh
right?
yeah.
What a great time to read,
A perfect
right?
time to read.
Or
Yes.
reread,
Mm-hmm.
even,
Oh,
right?
yeah. Yes,
So
exactly.
it's kind of interesting when we start to like open up a dictionary
Mm-hmm.
and look at words that start with re and be inspired by what's in there. That
Mm-hmm.
is one of, I think that's a super magical thing to do.
I may have done that. I was out I just like mind blown that there's like so many 15-letter words that start with RE. There were so many words that start with RE. I guess maybe I shouldn't really have been that surprised.
What's the
Even my last
longest
name
word?
starts with RE, which is funny. So,
It's true.
I don't remember offhand,
Oh, dang it.
but it's very easy to look up online for your favorite search engine. So, well, let's give some folks examples on how they can use this time and the energy that comes with Mercury in retrograde to make things work for them. I thought maybe I could share some knitting examples or like crochet, making examples first, if that's cool with you.
I think that's a great idea.
Awesome, because then I want to know all about the magical opportunities I could take advantage of. So that'll
Yeah.
be. So I personally thought, for makers, as someone who has taught people and continues to see people learn and grow, it's funny how people don't necessarily look back and recognize where they've come from.
Recognize.
Recognize, that's right. You better recognize. When we start a craft like knitting. You want to be great immediately, and it can be really frustrating. But the more you do it, the better you get. And even like after a month, after a year, after 5 years, after 20 years, if you look back and see, you know, how far you've come and all the projects you used to think were hard and really recognize the growth that you've had, it's a very powerful experience to put towards, you know, your current problems too, to maybe think, oh, they're not that bad. Or, wow,
Right.
I'm really impressed. It's a great time to reflect on that.
There, and those are words: reflection,
Mm-hmm.
review,
Mm-hmm.
all of those are really powerful words that start with re that are helpful everywhere, right?
Mm-hmm.
How few times people that have businesses, people that work in something, people that are parents reflect on
Yeah.
their kids' performance, how great their kids, the great things their kids have done, the
Mm-hmm.
progress we've made in business or in my with my team,
Yep.
the growth and advancement that I've made through as I'm knitting, because I am knitting for the very first time this week.
Yes. Yes.
And you know why? What makes me a better knitter? It's a
What?
word that starts with RE,
I can't wait to hear it.
repetition,
Oh, it's a good one. Yes.
right? So
Yes.
it's very interesting how we're practicing and practicing and repeating something, which
Mm-hmm.
is really heightened and highlighted during Mercury retrograde.
Mm-hmm. Yep. It's a great time to meditate. And yeah, really get into something that you're currently working on. That being said, it's a great time to reconnect with old projects. So, going through, maybe you're like me and you like to cast on multiple projects at once. You know, over time, things happen and
No,
change.
people
And
don't do that.
maybe it's just me, Jim, but I sometimes accumulate projects that I realize I'm never going to return to. So,
We are now hyper conscious of all of the words that start with RE right
I
now.
can't stop. I
It's
love
so
words
good.
in general, so I'm like, oh, it's a word mission. Um, anyway, so it's a great time to just go through all those projects. You can remember, why you started them. Even if you don't want to finish it, it's still fun to look at them again. And if you're like, okay, this project, I don't want to finish it. It's actually just stressing me out, even being here. Release the yarn. It's okay to take it out. It can be something else. Whether it ends up being that project again or something for someone else, it's a really great opportunity to just make new space and release anything that's unnecessarily keeping tension on you. Like, this is your
Yes.
craft. It shouldn't be stressful, but it is for a lot of people. And that's when we have to remember, like, okay, we're choosing to do this. We don't need to knit. So, yeah, it's,
I love the idea of release. I think,
yes.
so far we've talked about review,
Mm-hmm.
reflection. We've talked about reconnecting with an old project. We've also
Mm-hmm.
talked about releasing old projects.
Yes.
And when you are talking about those two things, I immediately think, I have my first ball of yarn.
Mm.
Am I going to end up with a lot of yarn like my partners? And will it ever need to be like organized or put away? And that makes me think of another reword:
Mm.
reorganize.
Yes. Oh, it's a great time to reorganize, much like going through your old projects, going through your yarn stash, or just, again, just saying for me, I tend to have a lot of projects going at once. And then when I finish them, I don't necessarily always take the time to put away the needles, put away the notions. So they kind of are like scattered in piles. And so it's a great time to reorganize, get things situated, find out, are some of these things I don't even want anymore? Maybe they could be released back in the world to help someone else. So it's a good time again to make space, because new things come when we make space for them. So I'm not saying it's a great time to buy yarn after this, but if you make more space.
A little like Marie Kondo,
Yeah,
Marie Kondo
exactly.
type of action
Yep,
would
yep,
be okay at this
exactly.
time, right?
Yes, because I think a lot of people um, have such a large stash over time is because they're sentimentally attached to, like, well, I got this at a fiber festival, or it was a gift from a friend, and even though I don't like the fiber or the color or whatever, like, I can't just So just recognizing that it was a great gift and giving it to someone else so it has an opportunity to be something, that's really powerful too. So
Right. Yeah.
yeah.
And I love that. I love this. Okay, well, let's talk about one more reword with regards to knitting, crocheting, and making. What
Yeah.
about the word resist?
Yeah, I would say resist starting new projects. Resist buying new
Wait,
materials.
there's a reword there. Reuse,
Yeah,
recycle.
remind yourself what you already have.
Remind yourself to remember to reuse,
Yes, yes.
right?
This is like
It's
really
it,
hitting me hard. I feel like
Are you
I'm
feeling
really ready to do this. Yeah.
personally attacked?
Yeah, a little bit, a little bit. Yeah,
Well,
I'm
this is
feeling
a
hurt.
perfect time, to do it. 3 times a year ish, Mercury is in retrograde, and we have these opportunities. And if we went with and embraced the astrology, what a
Mm-hmm.
cool annual, Martha Stewart puts out her annual like schedule of like when to dig up the bulbs and when to plant this and when to make
Sure.
bread and all those sort of things, right?
Mm-hmm.
Well, this you can really use the astrology and the seasons and start to have these periods of time where you're in this reflective state, in this, time. And I think it's really, really helpful. Even if you're not a maker, if you're
Yes.
listening to this and you are not a maker, you don't know how to crochet or knit or whatever, you
Mm-hmm.
say something, which is not true. Anyone who says I'm not artistic, it's not true. You're
Yeah.
just
I'm not
haven't yet.
creative. You just
You
don't
are
realize how you're creative.
because you're human. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So for folks that are thinking outside of the knitting bag,
Mm-hmm.
what are some ideas that you came up with? Because I thought, you shared a few, and I think this is super exciting that you got inspired by these.
All right. So I have to give props to my roommate Brienne because she was inspired by me just telling her like, oh yeah, we had this idea for the podcast, sort of, telling people how they can prepare and make the best use of this time.
Props to
And
Brienne, girl.
yes, she's one smart cookie, I'll tell you what. And right away, she was like, "Oh, I'm so inspired! Like, yeah, I could see how I could put this in like my just daily life, let alone like magic or knitting." So then I was like inspired by that, and I thought, well, yeah, okay. So how else could we do this? Just so anyone could make best use of this time. And I thought, okay, it's all about removing old things to make space for new things. So, whether that's physical or mental, that's sort of up to you. But
Hmm.
some examples are, going through spices and your fridge, removing old expired items, your makeup drawer, like things that you just don't always think about but use a lot, like nail polishes. All of that, just you can go through it. Especially if it's expired, that's low vibe stuff. You don't need it. It probably doesn't taste like anything anyway. Just
The
get it out of
bottom of
there.
your fridge. The bottom of
Exactly.
your fridge definitely has stuff that can be released.
It's probably furry and ready to go. So there's that. Yeah. It's also a great time to review recipes that maybe you've used within the past year. A lot of people have been cooking at home lately, and with things kind of getting back to a different state, it's easy to forget that there were probably some things that came out really delicious that maybe you aren't even thinking about. So, it's a great time to sort of refresh your palette, your menu. I know I really get kind of stale in that situation, so it's fun to refresh that. It's also a great opportunity to refresh the art and photography in your home. Like, decor is so easy to get used to, but I promise as soon as you change anything, it's like your eye immediately goes to it every time you go to the room. It's so refreshing. It's so wonderful.
I love this idea of redecorating
Mm-hmm. Oh, there you
during
go.
Mercury retrograde,
Duh.
even if it's
Decorate.
small, even if it's switching out. I mean, it's May, we're in the Pacific Northwest, but wherever you are, maybe it's time to trade out that blanket that you put over couch for the
Mm-hmm.
other blanket that's a different color, or trade it out with something that's in one of the bedrooms or something.
Yep.
Maybe it's time to switch up your sheets, or switch out your winter clothes for your summer clothes or
Mm-hmm.
something like that. So I think about that being a great time to do those things that are also, it's going to look different, even if
Yep.
it's a new plant or different plant, or moving stuff around
Yes, just
inside your
moving
home.
stuff around with your own stuff. Again, you don't have to buy new things. That's not the point here. It's reusing,
Rearrange.
rearrange,
Another RE
repurpose.
word.
Yes. Oh, I tell you
Love it. This is
what.
so fun. Oh my
Yep.
gosh. And you
Um,
have some other really clever ones. As I was thinking about some of these things, I think about reorganizing like a closet or my
mhm.
sock drawer or whatever, but you had a really great take on reorganize.
Oh, yeah. So reorganize closets and then donate the items that aren't being used. Again, they're they're not doing you any good just sitting there, but they could be doing someone else a lot of good if you let them. So, releasing them into a better situation, if that's how you need to think about it, is a great way to think about it.
And you
Um,
thought about reorganizing things that I've done, like recent achievements. That's also was so
oh,
interesting to me, right?
yes, yes. And, rewarding yourself for that, recognizing things that you've done. And you know what? Yeah, I have done this. Like, I remember I just started knitting. I didn't know what I was doing, and now I can knit so well. It's just about recognizing where you've come from to give yourself some props because it helps fill up your cup and you can't give from an empty cup. So
True.
I really feel like this is refilling your cup. It's a great time to do that.
Yeah. All right, you have a couple more. What are
Ah,
those?
relax. So again, a meditative time, a reflective time. If like you're feeling overwhelmed, it's okay to say no, take a minute, let yourself come back into it in a better headspace. um yeah, I mean, I feel like I could literally go on this tangent forever, so
It's awesome. I wanted to talk about some of the magic you can do.
yes,
So,
please.
for a lot of these things, when you're talking about all of these fabulous ideas, what is some magic we can do during Mercury retrograde?
Mm-hmm.
So, the colors that are associated with Mercury are colors that are sometimes associated with the element of air, like yellow, orange, gold. Those
Mm-hmm.
are really great mercurial colors. Those are also colors that are associated with opening the roads, or block busting anything that's in your way, because Hermes is that type of deity that would create open roads for you.
Oh,
So you
interesting.
could use those colors, but you can also add colors in that signify Mercury retrograde. Like perhaps you have a gold, but then you cover it with, another color like a dark red, or maybe
Mm.
a darker color, or alongside a darker color. So you could bring those in as sort of like a reflection of or even a mirror. You can use a
Mm.
mirror as reflection of your
Yes.
work or of whatever you're doing. So I'm thinking immediately about reflection in a mirror and doing reflective magic. So one of the things you can do is meditate in front of a mirror to reflect on,
Mm.
yourself, and have that energy sort of back, or put a mirror up when you do a little bit of candle magic. Perhaps you um, are lighting a candle with an intention, right?
Mm.
You could put a mirror up to acknowledge the Mercury retrograde time. This is a
Hmm.
great time for any type of meditation, awareness exercises. You could also do, how wonderful would it be to draw a beautiful bath for yourself
Ooh, yeah.
and maybe put some rose petals or some things you already have around the house. You already
Mm-hmm.
have things around the house, even in your kitchen cabinet,
Yep.
that you could put into a bath. Some salt, just a little pinch of salt for the energy of it.
Mm-hmm.
Perhaps you have that rose water in the back of your cupboard you were going to use for those, cocktails, or you have
Mm-hmm.
some bitters on your, that are like, some snooty bitters you got, or maybe you have some old dried rose petals or something else.
Yeah.
You could put those in the bath. Maybe you have a bath bomb that you haven't used
Boom.
because
Perfect.
it's too special or too nice. This is a time of rejuvenation and
Agree.
caring for yourself, self-love, those kind of things, right?
Mm-hmm.
So you could do something very intentional around drawing yourself a bath. Speak an intention as you get into the tub. I honor my body. I love my body. I ask
Mm-hmm.
Mercury in retrograde to help me reconnect,
Yeah,
another re word,
exactly.
with my body and with who I am and
Mm-hmm.
with my, self. You could reorganize, just like your knitting and your crafting, your magical stuff.
Yep.
This is a great time to clean your altar, to clear your altar, to smudge, or to ritually purify objects.
Mm.
One of the things we have this going all the time as we do magic, and as I do a candle spell, my candle spell is over, and I have all this melted wax on my plate, or I have odds and ends, or whatever sorts of things are a result of a magical working that I'm doing. What do you
Mm.
do with that stuff? We have a burn box. It's actually a burn bag.
Mm.
And we have a special paper bag that is from the grocery store, but we have consecrated it by putting little dots of oil on it and a big like symbol on it. You can even turn them inside out. And that becomes a magical bag for your remains of whatever ritual or magical stuff you've done. And so burning your burn box or your burn bag during this time outside or in a really good fireplace, although
Right.
wax will drip all over. So it's better to do it at a campfire.
Be smart
As
about
we're
it.
getting, yeah, be smart about it. As we're getting into nicer weather, it's a great opportunity if you're going to have a
Mm.
campfire, if you're going to go to the beach, if you're going to go do something, you can put those on a ritual fire and, use your burn box that way.
Oh my gosh. That actually I've not to like interrupt your flow here, but
Please.
I have wondered often like what am I supposed to do with this now? And I'm always like, "Oh my, I can't just throw it out." And so I usually try to
Yes.
find like a place in nature to put it when it's safe to do so. But that's a great idea. I love
Yeah.
the that burn box. It's
It's the
so
number one
smart.
question that people ask is, what do I do with the remains from my magic work?
Mhm.
Right? If you did an intention sigil, or if you did knot magic, if you had a piece of yarn and you tied 7 knots in it, and in each knot you put a little intention with a piece of paper, and you have
Mm.
it hanging in your window, it's a cool thing we could talk about one day. And then all of your things come to pass, and that's done. What do you do with it?
Oh, yeah.
Right? So
Right.
this is a great opportunity, but it also speaks to something that I would also like to talk about at a future episode.
Mhm.
This is why using natural fibers
Yeah.
and using beeswax or soy wax or natural waxes rather than uh, um, paraffin is
Mhm.
really a great and important thing to do. If you're using beeswax, you can bury beeswax in a really great location and not be polluting.
There you go.
But you
Yep.
cannot do that with paraffin. Paraffin, if you bury paraffin in your lawn, you will have a dead patch of soil for
A
decades.
long time, yeah. Oh, ooh. All right.
Ugh,
Well, there you go. Great to consider
FYI.
your impact. Again, much
Yep,
like using yarn and things, it's great to consider the impact of the product you're using
that's right.
whenever you can. So, yeah,
So I think the big idea here with Mercury retrograde is go with the flow. How do we
absolutely.
embrace this time rather than, well, it's one of the things maybe to not do is resist. We want to
Yeah,
resist in the right way, right?
right.
Resistance is we're tempted to resist Mercury retrograde because it is in retrograde, and resist is an RE word. But
Mm-hmm.
there are RE things we can do in the wrong way. And I love how you had like resist starting a new project,
Yes,
resist signing a contract, right? We can
exactly.
use that resistance in a positive way. So, and there's this idea of the phoenix, there's this idea of rebirth, which is an RE word, right?
Yes.
And to come into a new place. So, this is a time to reflect, renew, and be reborn at the outs when Mercury retrograde, when Mercury then goes direct
Mm.
on June 22nd.
So is that like right around the solstice then, right?
Oh, right. It does
Oh, well,
happen
that's a
right
perfect
around
time for your burn box. Oh, what a
summer
great thing to
solstice.
do at the end of this particular
Yes.
Mercury in retrograde.
So I totally see it. You go out to the, either your big backyard or
Mm.
to a location where it's safe and legal to have a campfire.
Yep.
Get some awesome friends together. And if you're all vaccinated, you can follow CDC guidelines, or social distance outside is awesome. We're going to the beach to do this.
Mm.
And at summer solstice, which is going to be on June 22nd, it's like a month from now.
Mm.
Yeah, a month from now, because it's May 26th today.
Mm-hmm.
You can light a big bonfire for the solstice. Very common for people to do. And that's
Yeah.
a great opportunity to say, bring everyone that's my magical friends, let's do our burn box. What a cool
Yes.
idea, right?
That's a great release. It's a great reconnection. You're literally re-sparking. Maybe these are people you haven't seen for a long time.
You're rekindling friendships that
Oh,
maybe during the pandemic we haven't seen each other.
yes. Oh man. Yeah. I think, Jim, I dare to say this could be one of the best Mercury in retrogrades in a long time. How about
It
that?
will be.
There you
We
go.
have the power to make this Mercury in retrograde fantastic. Make it
Mm-hmm.
work for us, right?
That's it. I mean, that's exactly it. It's all about your perspective.
Remember, yeah, Mercury is still moving forward.
Mm-hmm.
Mercury is just not moving forward from our perspective. And so this is our time to look within and do internal work
Mm-hmm.
and take the time to do that.
Yeah, it's deep.
I have a story from last Mercury retrograde where I tried to implement a brand new email system
Mm.
during Mercury retrograde and it failed. Well, it didn't fail. I made it work, but I had to have 5 different calls to IT support to
Mm-hmm.
make it happen.
Yeah.
And that's the type of thing that I was like, oh my gosh, of course, Mercury retrograde. But you know
Mm-hmm.
what it really is? It's Jim retrograde because I was not working within the parameters of Mercury and what it's there to do,
Mm.
which is
Ah.
that would have been a great time for me to plan or reflect on
Mm.
what am I doing? Why do I want to do this? What is
Mm-hmm.
actually happening? Let's reflect and review the
Research.
research.
Yeah.
Perfect. Let's research what would be the right thing to do. When would be the right time to do it?
Mm-hmm.
Is this urgent? Did I need to? The worst thing is I didn't need to do all that stuff just then. I could have waited 2 weeks.
Oh yeah. Yep.
Arr,
I know.
every time. So it's really not a Mercury retrograde issue. It's
Mm-hmm.
it was an operator error.
It was a choice you made, and
Right?
then you have to deal with the outcome of it.
That's
Again,
right. That's
it's
right.
not bad. It's not good. It
Yep.
just is what it is. So you have to, again, go with
Yeah.
the flow. So,
Do you and be prepared. You know what you're going to have to do during Mercury retrograde?
what's that?
Repair.
Ah, yeah.
It is likely, so plan for it.
Mm-hmm.
Plan for, I know my car is going to need these repairs
Mm-hmm.
because I've known that something's squeaking or something's moving. Well, you better be darn sure that those repairs will become immediately needed.
Mm-hmm.
If at any time and at any time is influenced by the astrology, it's likely those repairs will be required during
Yes.
Mercury retrograde.
Yes. If you don't deal with it, they're going to repeat themselves over and over again.
And
So,
recur.
yes. Well, I really hope this was inspiring for people. It sure was for me. Again, it's so easy to fall into bad habits. Even after having this conversation, I know at some point I'm going to be like, "Oh no, the thing." And then no. It's an opportunity to do something that I wasn't expecting. So,
Right.
remember to keep your mind really flexible.
Yeah.
Yes, again,
Well,
stay flexible.
is there a thing that you want to revive or review or reorganize during this Mercury retrograde, Katie?
Oh, actually, yeah, I was thinking it would be a great opportunity to revise my plans for the second half, the remainder, there we go, of the year. So, yeah, so that's what I'll be doing is a big self-reflection on exactly what I want to get out of it, how I can do it, And again, it's the perfect time to look back from what you've done for inspiration for current things. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, it's awesome.
How about you?
I am going to burn my burn box.
Oh,
So
yeah, that's right.
that is what I'm actually going to do. So we have one here at the house and are planning to have a getaway. So I'm super excited about all of the remains
Mm.
of our magical work and seeing it go up in flames during
Hmm.
Mercury retrograde.
Gosh.
So that is my actual plan to do.
Oh,
So
that'll be so nice. It'll offer you a great opportunity to remember all of the rituals and spells and work that you did with those items too. Yeah, a really
mhm.
beautiful time. Huh.
Yay.
Super awesome.
Well,
Well,
this is
gosh.
fun. We
Yeah,
inspired each other.
I know we always do. This is why this had to be a thing.
Exactly.
Awesome. All right. Well, I think that wraps it up for this week. But
I'm excited for next week.
exactly, me too. All right, Jim, I will see you soon.
Okay.
Bye
So
bye.
long, everybody.
This episode is a wrap. If you enjoyed what you heard, go ahead and follow us on your favorite podcast streaming app. And don't forget, you can see full video episodes of Knit a Spell on Light from Lantern's YouTube channel.